What is going on, everyone? Anthony here, and welcome back to another video here on Let's Talk Resident Evil. And this video is kind of following up the last two videos I did, talking about Resident Evil 1 being remade again in 2026 for the 30th anniversary. What I would like to see, what I would not like to see. There's a lot of opinions in the comments and online, and that's fine. To each their own. If you're excited about it, great. If not, it's all good. Just wait for the next RE you are excited for, or if you checked out years ago, it's all good. You like what you like. The franchise is 28 years old, and there's plenty of games to enjoy, and, all from all different eras and all different platforms. So, there you go. But as far as talking about Resident Evil 1 a little bit more, I did bring it up in the last video, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about Resident Evil 0. Not a lot of fans are asking, what will happen to Resident Evil 0? Will it be retconned? Will it even be remade into its own game? Will it get a standalone game? I'm in the opinion of I don't think so. I think if they were to do something like an approach to 0, I think it would be DLC for Resident Evil Remake. Now, hear me out. I know a lot of fans do like Resident Evil 0. Some fans don't. Some fans are mixed. Some fans really like it. Resident Evil 0 is not my favorite game, but, I have gotten a little bit better with the mechanics with my last playthrough on the channel, and, it's a learning curve, right? It's definitely a harder Resident Evil game for me, those damn eliminators, but besides the eliminators and the partner switching, which is a little weird to get used to, and of course leaving items on the floor, no item box, the PC community has fixed a lot of this stuff with mods, adding co-op, adding, an item box to Resident Evil 0, stuff that we could only dream of back in the day to make that game a little bit better. But now, with Resident Evil 1 being remade and the connection that I mentioned between 0 and Remake on the GameCube, the story of Resident Evil 0 is actually pretty good. I actually really like the James Marcus story. I like Rebecca and Billy, but it was always the connection, the continuity between 0 and 1 that always just made me scratch my head. Because if you think about it, Rebecca goes through the entire game of Resident Evil 0 with Billy, and then when she sees Chris in the mansion, after experiencing a whole game's worth of enemies and bosses, she doesn't say anything. She doesn't say, hey, I know how this happened. I know how the virus was spread to the mansion. I know about the leeches. I know about everything. Like, none of that is mentioned. So, something they could do is potentially give this a, maybe a $15 to $20 DLC. And I know DLC is like very, people wince when they hear that. They'd rather have it be its own game. But if you really think about it, Resident Evil 0, even though, I'm not really good at it, so it takes me a lot longer to beat that game, it's not very long when you get it down to a science. Like, it's around the same length as Remake when you get down to, everything as far as, like, puzzles, know where to go, you don't get lost. Like, I'm still not great at 0, I'll admit. I'm still trying to get better at that, and Code Veronica are my two, like, weak spots as far as I'm not very good at those games as far as getting them down to, like, under 5 hours or under, like, I think I did for Code Veronica. I got pretty close. I think either 5 or 6 hours, but still, Resident Evil 0, if it is DLC, I don't really look at that as a disrespect to 0. And I know some people in the comments might feel a certain way. They might want it to be on its own. They might want it to be connected to Resident Evil 1 Remake. And I think if Capcom's going to approach it business-wise, Resident Evil 1 would be the first one to be up to plate, right, for that remake. So if fans play this brand new Resident Evil 1 remake for the first time, they get into the story, they finally experience it in the Rex engine, over the shoulder, what have you, and let's just say this RE0 DLC comes in. Now, what do you do to RE0 for modern audiences? Well, number one, you make a co-op. I think that's an obvious thing that I wanted to mention in this video when talking about Resident Evil 0. What I would change about RE0 if they brought it into a RE1 remake type game, right? Where it's going to be over the shoulder, and there isn't I don't think there's going to be co-op in Resident Evil 1 Remake, but that would be very interesting if they went about a mansion scenario and Jill and Chris are with each other the whole time, kind of like in Umbrella Chronicles where they were with each other and just never split up. That would be very interesting if they took that approach. I don't think they'll do that, but you never know. Stranger things have happened, but I think co-op is necessary for Zero in this case because the original Resident Evil Zero had the partner system. The partner system was, the thing that throws people off. Because for me, the partner system was very janky. Sometimes it works very well and fluent. Sometimes the AI screws you over if you're not commanding it properly. And then dropping items on the floor and everything like that are, that's already annoying, right? So an item box will definitely be added in. I think co-op will be added in. If you don't want to play co-op, then you can just kind of maneuver the partner when you need the partner. I think if they make the AI kind of self-sufficient, if you're not playing, co-op with somebody, so you could still play Zero, have a partner there, but the partner is like more self-sustaining, and you could still use the partner for the hook shot or for the different things that you need to use and do first before the other character, sending items back and forth and whatnot. But maybe that's only when you have to use them. You don't have to constantly switch in and out of that, of each character. Or some people might like that. I don't know. I think co-op though would be really cool because depending on if RE5 comes out first or if this comes out first as the next remake, no matter what remake comes out first, it's going to test co-op for Capcom. To bring co-op back into the franchise for the first time since, I think, Revelations 2, if I'm not mistaken. And I know that's a very controversial take because people don't like hearing co-op in Resident Evil, in modern Resident Evil, because they immediately think, oh, they're going to take it too far. It's going to get too much like, an action game. I think Zero could get away with it. 5, we already know that's kind of a given, right? Because that's already more of an action punched up game. They could still add horror to the remake though. Don't disregard what they can do to 5 remake. But I think for Zero, they can even get away with it because it just makes sense. I like Billy. I like Rebecca. I like the story. I like James Marcus. I like the leeches, like I said before. I just don't like the certain mechanics of the weapon dropping and the partner switching could just be, to be honest, it is a little dated. I mean, it's just going back and playing it. Can I have fun with it, getting used to it after playing it for a few hours? Yeah, I can. I can admit that. It's still not my favorite Resident Evil. It's by far my favorite. But, I mean, if you can introduce this to a new era of fans, also fans that, played it on the GameCube back when it came out, I mean, I think that you actually can win people over more with the Zero story. And again, have it connect. Have it connect to Resident Evil 1. Like I said, Rebecca comes over and just doesn't say anything to Chris about all the events that happen. It's a simple thing you can fix, just like everybody escaping on the helicopter, so we can actually finally get everyone escaping in one cutscene. That'd be very interesting. Will they do it? Not sure, but we'll see. Will they even do this Resident Evil Zero idea? I don't know. Probably not, but I'm just thinking, what if they did, right? If you're going to really step into the origins of this story, why wouldn't you spend a little bit of time to work on some DLC on the side and make that Resident Evil Zero? If they don't want to put RE0 into a full game, full production, like just make it a branch off of Resident Evil 1 remake, or whatever we're calling it now, Resident Evil 1 2026. We'll see how they manage that. But just those little bits. I mean, to be honest with you, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. If they do Resident Evil Zero as like a DLC, people are going to be like, why is it DLC? Why do we got to pay extra money? I hate it, right? Because people even complain about the $10 Separate Ways DLC that came out. $10? Really? And we're still complaining? But I still love Separate Ways. Literally is my favorite piece of RE DLC, right next to Lost in Nightmares. I love it. So people might not like that. And then if they completely ignore Zero, people are going to be like, where's Billy? How is the Nemesis story going to get fit? I'm just kidding. He's not Nemesis. But I'm just joking that people always they always want RE0 to come back or to see Billy come back, right? And that would be the one thing that they would do, ignoring Zero, that would just put fans over the edge and be like, why didn't they do that? But I honestly would feel very similar as far as like, why wouldn't you do that? If you're retreading old territory, you already have the Spencer Mansion, you're going to be making, you know, everything in this new engine. Why not make the train, make the facility, make the basement, make the lab in Zero? Why can't we do all of the things combined in just one Origin game? Have the Origins collection, like a new Origins collection after, because it comes with the Zero DLC and RE1. It's the whole beginning of Raccoon City, you know, the beginning of the Raccoon City story, right? I don't know. I just think they can do it. They shouldn't ignore Zero. And I would like to see them acknowledge it. So I just think that if we're going to think about this in a Capcom business mindset, what would make sense? And I think approaching RE1 as a like full game makes sense. And then I think Zero as just like, you know, a 4 to 5 hour DLC extension. It could still be long. It could still have plenty of, you know, of sections that if they want to streamline it, they can. But, you know, I'm not sure. What do you think of the idea of Resident Evil 0 being connected to Resident Evil 1 for the next remake? Would you like to see that? Do you like Resident Evil 0? Because again, I like RE0. I really like the story more than I like the gameplay. And I really wouldn't want to see that story go to waste, especially if we're talking about, you know, we see Wesker in RE0, right? So we see Wesker with Birkin. You know, we see all of the, you know, the origins of the story that didn't necessarily like not. And when I say that it didn't connect, I'm not saying that like, you know, James Marcus didn't happen and, you know, the Wesker conversation never happened between Birkin and stuff like that. Like all of that still happens. But it's just the way that it connects in the timeline between like after one game and then right into another. It just doesn't really line up that well as far as the characters and the interactions. All things that can be fixed. So let me know in the comments what you think of RE0 being DLC for RE1 Remake. Are you still excited for RE1 Remake? Don't forget to smash that like button. Thanks for all the support in these last couple videos. Please subscribe for more LTRE content. There's plenty of more where this came from. And I will catch all of you in the next one. Take care.